Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1736A, and today's date is December 9th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Trump is using the central bank's economic collapse plan against them. Before we get started, I wanted to talk about the patriots that are fighting for our country. Every generation seems to have its own president. Each seems to define an era. Our generation will have Donald Trump as their president. He will be remembered as the president who stood up to the deep state. This holiday season, Noble Gold is offering the solid silver Trump 2020 Freedom Coin. Noble Gold has sold thousands of these beautiful coins as collector items for investments. Yes, because these are 0.999% fine silver. And today, there's a holiday special offer on right now. Go to TrumpCoin2020.com and put the code X22 to receive free shipping if you buy 3 coins or more. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, it might not seem like it, but the central bankers' control, it is slipping through their fingers. They do not have control of the narrative whatsoever. Everything that they planned, they can't use anymore. And this is a very big deal because throughout history, their plan was to cover up what they do to the economy, what they do to countries, and then restart the system. I mean, already out in the UK, we can see the Brexit deal isn't going the way the people actually really wanted the Brexit deal to go. We see that this deal is not really a great deal for the people. Nigel Farage is out there, and he's confirmed plans to launch a new political force to save the Brexit. Now, most likely, if this goes through, they'll probably enter a transition period, or they'll try to get a new referendum. And what they're going to try to do, and this is coming from the central bank, they're going to try to make it where the referendum is shot down, and then they don't have to worry about any type of Brexit whatsoever. Nigel Farage is out there, and he's saying he's going to try to stop the process of a new referendum. Because you don't need a new referendum. The people already decided what they wanted to do. And government just has to follow through on what the people want. Not what the EU wants. Not what the central bankers want. And this is the big problem. Because the central bankers, they never want to give up control. The central bankers continually try to control every single situation because that is their main force. That's what they use. They use control, and they use it through currency by putting countries into debt. Once they lose that, they're finished. Think about it. If every single country says, you know something, we're getting rid of the private Western Central Bank. We're no longer going to allow you to create currency. We're going to do it ourselves because we don't see a reason to even have you do it. It makes no sense. And once that happens, they lose complete and utter control. Now, in the United States, we can see that the economy right now, it's been built on an illusion. And since 2008, way before that, but since 2008, they really had to turn up the dials to keep the illusion alive. And that's why we saw money printing. This is why they went out and they made all these deals, and behind closed doors, they were passing currency from one bank to another, from one central bank to another, trying to hide what is really happening. And it allowed countries time to create new systems to make sure that they had an insurance policy for when the entire system came down. Now, back then, the plan was to have it moved to someplace else. They did it during World War II. After some type of great event, they were going to do it again. But the problem this time is that they lost the narrative. Trump has gained the narrative, and he's using the central bank's plan against them. The plan to bring down the economy. Now, think about this for a second. Their plan was to raise interest rates. Their plan was to then deflate all the bubbles that they propped up. Their plan was to bring down the entire system. Make sure people use their credit cards. Make sure everyone did what they wanted them to do. Now, if we look at the situation with credit cards, remember, we've been brainwashed to think that credit is good. Every time you hear the financial news reports, they say, oh, look, people are shopping out there. Christmas season's great. Look how much they purchased on credit. Now, most of the time, people don't have this money. A lot of times they have to pay it out for, over a very long stretch of time. A lot of times what happens is they become delinquent. Now, what's happening right now is that people don't really have high-paying jobs. We went over the unemployment statistics. We went over how people are employed. If you worked 1 hour a week, they consider that employed. If you have 2 part-time jobs, you have 2 full-time jobs. I mean, this is all manipulation. But they also redid the FICO scores, which allowed people to get what? More credit. So right now, we're seeing that consumers, they are using their credit cards once again, and it hit an all-time high. Why? Because they just got this onrush of new credit, which allows them to go out and purchase goods. Now, is this going to be great in the end? No. But this is what the central bank likes to do. And they were planning this for quite a while, way before Trump came into office, where they were doing a whole recalculation of FICO. And what we're seeing right now is that people are out there once again charging. Now, yes, it might look like the Christmas season is doing well, but you're going to see what happens after that, because everyone's just using credit. And that means credit card, they're going to go delinquent. That means people are going to have more debt. That means people are going to have a harder time paying them off. And the whole thing is not going to work out well at all. We're seeing other indicators that the system is falling apart. And remember, Trump is using the statistics that the central bankers, that the government has been using all along. They're all manipulated. And he's pushing it to the edge. He's using their weapon against them, showing everyone the stock market's doing well, showing everyone the unemployment rate is very, very low, showing GDP very high. Meanwhile, what's happening to the economy? Now, Trump and the patriots, they know they only have a certain period of time before this entire system falls apart. I mean, we're seeing an indicator after indicator. I mean, if we look at heavy-duty truck orders, they have plummeted. And the total number of orders was down about 14.5% the same month a year ago, and off 35.9% from October. This means trucks that haul all these goods back and forth, this is an indicator that something is wrong with the economy. Of course, they're saying don't panic just yet because, trucking orders are still good. Yes, they've come down a little bit, but don't worry about it. But then again, you have to look at the cancellations. Cancellations, they're starting to creep up once again. So we're going to have to look at this very, very carefully. But this is another indicator to show that this economy is deteriorating. Now, what they do, and this is what the central bank has been doing for quite a while, since 2008, I mean before this, but since 2008, is they pumped up the bubbles once again, and then they slowly bring it down, and they make sure that nobody notices what's really going on in the background. They make sure everyone's eyes are fixed on the stock market. They make sure everyone's eyes are fixed on unemployment, GDP, and the rest of the numbers. This is why Trump is continually pointing to the stock market, continually pointing to the unemployment numbers. He's using exactly what they have done in the past, while he plans for everything in the background. This is the trade deals and everything else. We see Bob Shiller is out there, and this is from Shiller, and he monitors housing prices in the 20 different cities. And right now, he's out there questioning this gigantic housing boom. Now, we've been looking at this for a very long time, and we know that this has been completely manipulated by the central banks. And they pushed the housing bubble up like there was no tomorrow. So if we go back in time, we can see back in 2012, houses sold at $200,000 would bring over $300,000 in today's market. So they really pumped up the housing bubble. And now we're starting to see prices come down very, very quickly. And today's signs of weakness in the housing market are being taken by some as a signal that prices of single-family homes may fall soon, which we are definitely seeing. I mean, if we go back to 2006, we saw the same exact thing. 2006 to 2007, housing prices were coming down. Realtors had no clue what was going on. Their traffic completely dried up, and we're seeing the same thing right now. Actually, if you look at the graph and you look at the prices of homes, you can see in 2005, 6, and 7, prices were coming down dramatically. Then the bubbles were pumped back up. And between 2012 and 2014, prices came down again. They were flatlined, and now they're dropping again. Because what they're doing, and this shows us, they've been trying to keep the market up as best they can until they brought it down. Now, we don't see a recession everywhere in the country. It doesn't start off that way. It doesn't like you flip a switch and all of a sudden everyone is in recession. You see recessions in different parts of the country first. I mean, if we go back to 2007, 2008, the Northeast, in around the New York, New Jersey area, they saw housing prices come down dramatically, traffic drying up. If you move down to Florida, during that same period of time, the speculators were still speculating. They were still building. They didn't see anything. California saw it before New York and New Jersey. So different areas see it at different times, but what happens in the end is that it all catches up with each other, and then the whole country goes into recession. This is what we are seeing now. There are many areas that are still doing okay, and then there are other areas that are doing terribly, where housing prices are dropping dramatically, and there is no traffic at all, and they can't move these homes. Over the many years, we're seeing compensation of employees drop. I mean, it's not getting better. Yes, it's ticked up a little bit, but when you look at an overall picture and you step back, you can see that things are definitely changing. Think about this for a second. Prior to 1971, and when we go back to the 40s, when we're on the gold standard and partial gold standard, you can see the percentage of GDP to nominal GDP. We started at 52%. When we hit the 70s, we were very close to around 59%. Once we came off the gold standard, the percentage of compensation of employees to nominal GDP dropped all the way down until we hit the 90s. And then all of a sudden, in the 2000s, it popped up a little bit. And then since that time, it has been dropping very, very rapidly. This is why in the beginning stages, when we came off the gold standard back in the 70s, people thought it was fantastic. Everyone said, wow, this is great. We saw inflation. That means the value of the dollar decreased. Now we're at the end stage of this entire system. Trump and the patriots, they know there's no place to go with this. There's just way too much debt. It's almost like one of his casinos. You have all this debt, not enough revenue coming in. What do? You have to go bankrupt. You have to reset everything. Now, we do have proof of this, and this is coming out of the economy.Bob spot. So what they did was they took household net worth, they took the tax receipts that are coming to the government, and government expenditures. Well, right now, the tax revenues, they are collapsing. We saw this back in 2007, 2008. We saw this back in 2001, 2001. We saw this back in the 90s. We saw this back in the 80s. We saw also at the same time tax receipts are declining, we saw government expenditures explode. Actually, back in 2006, 7, 8, government expenditures exploded. We see household net worth. Well, that is starting to decline right now. And we saw this happen back during these periods of time. Now, we need to remember what is happening here. Trump is making a deal with China to get rid of the narrative of the tariffs are bringing down the economy. Because once China and the United States make a deal, the mainstream media will not be able to use this anymore. Trump is using the manipulation that the central banks and the deep state have been using all along. So he's building the economy up to make it look good, controlling the stock market with the plunge protection team and everything else. Trump is controlling the narrative. The patriots are controlling the narrative. They are controlling how this system is falling apart. And they're doing it in such a way where it won't hurt the majority of the people. This is the ultimate plan. Now, remember, he's going to continually blame this on the Fed. Every time the economy loses its footing, he's going to turn around and say, it's the Fed's fault. It's the Fed's fault. The stock market comes down, it's the Fed's fault. This is all in preparation, and this is dropping small little carpet bombs along the way to make sure that everyone understands who is responsible for this. Because in the end, what's going to happen is they're going to say, the economy fell apart. I was making it great. You can see by the numbers. You can see by the deal that we struck with China. The Fed, they decided to work against me. We need to find out what they're up to. Let's have an audit. Let's see their books. Let's have complete transparency. Let the public know what they are up to. And once they do this, the Fed is done. Now think about it. Congress in the past has not passed an audit bill. But if the American people are hurt the way they're going to get hurt this time around, the American people are going to demand Congress to push this bill. That's what it's going to take. And this is why this is part of the plan. People are going to get hurt no matter which way you look at it. You're coming out of a central bank system. The central bank system is built on an illusion. And this illusion is that debt is good. And when you're coming out of this and you're moving into something else, yeah, it's going to hurt in the beginning. It's almost like a drug addict who's trying to get off of drugs and goes through the withdrawal phases. But after their body is clean of these drugs, guess what? They feel a lot better. They get stronger and stronger as time goes on. So we're going to go through a small withdrawal process. But afterwards, the country is going to get stronger. The only way it can get stronger is to shut down the central bank. And that is the main plan here. The plan is to use everything that the central bank, the deep state, has been using in the past against them to bring down their own system. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.